Hi, I'm Armani.
And I'm Ariana.
And today we're here with McLanecast, and we are going to be introducing a very special guest, Mr. Edward Dennis.
He is the wonderful author of The Boy from Mexico Becomes a Farmworker. Edward, would you like to go in and give us a little rundown about what your book is about?
Yes, so the book is about my great-grandfather, and it's based on his life as a farm worker. It's the sequel to the first book. The first book is him coming from Mexico. He's crossing the border, and this book is about one of his main jobs when he was here. So it talks about the weather, the conditions he works through, and the first page poses a question to kids, which is, where does your food come from, or do you know where your food comes from?
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
So the whole book is kind of building on these are the people who are out there growing your food, planting it, taking care of it, and it doesn't just magically show up to the grocery store.
Yeah.
There's a lot of hardworking people trying to bring your food to you.
Yeah.
Growing up, did you ever get to experience or witness the field works with your grandpa?
I didn't, but I heard stories. And when I was very young, other kids would ask me, like, where's your family from? Mm-hmm. And I didn't know what to tell them, or what did your family do? Especially being Mexican and having the last name Dennis. Yeah. So, I got a lot of questions, and I didn't always know how to answer those. I only heard stories. So I definitely kept hearing those stories, and as I became an adult, I was like, you know what, a lot of other kids probably feel this way. And that's when I got into creating children's books and, the other things that we'll talk about later on.
Yeah.
So, how did you begin your journey as an author?
So, in 2019, it's 2024, so yeah, about 5 years ago, I wrote a series, really, and because the third book comes out in May of next year. And I was writing a series, and I thought to myself, how do I break this up into a book? What kind of book? And that's when I reached out to agents, because you need an agent that talks to the publishers, because you can't just write a publisher on your own.
Yeah.
So I wrote this book, and then I reached out to an agent, and the agent was like, hey, this is way too big for a children's book. So then I chopped it up into 3 parts, and that was in 2019. I wrote and illustrated them, so I'm on my 10th book right now, but it won't come out for years, because my 3rd one comes out next year, the 4th one comes out next year as well, and then the 5th and 6th next year. So it's just a long process of writing, and your editor kind of rehashes the manuscript with you, which is your story, your raw writing.
Yeah.
So that's when I became an author, is when that happened.
So was it COVID, was it quarantining that inspired you to begin writing your books?
That's a good question. No, it's not. This was before COVID. But COVID did, I was a teacher years prior to COVID, and I had just quit in 2018, I think, and I was trying to make it as an artist. And when COVID hit, it really gave me the opportunity to kind of, I guess, flourish, because everything went virtual. So I didn't have to go fly a bunch of places like I used to for work.
Yeah.
I could just stay at my house and work 5 jobs, contract jobs.
Much easier.
Yeah.
So with all of the books and the different projects that you've been doing over these past years, what would you say is your most difficult job that you've done? Rather it's drawing or writing?
Yeah, so I did a job for a bike company. They're the largest bike manufacturer, largest bike company in the world. They're a Taiwanese company. It's Giant Cycling. So Giant Cycling has a factory in Taiwan where all the other bike companies rent out space and they make their bikes there. Mm-hmm. Long story short, my favorite job was working with them, and they're in Thousand Oaks, California. So I had to do an animation of the inside of one of their shoes, and you kind of turn a knob and the whole shoe tightens around your foot. It's really cool.
Whoa.
So yeah, and it's a carbon fiber shoe, so it was $800 shoe, and then they asked me to animate to show the customer what this shoe does. So that was a cool job.
did you get to go travel for that job? Because you said it was in
Taiwan.
Their headquarters is in Taiwan, but no, I didn't get to go to Taiwan.
Okay.
But I did a lot of Zoom meetings with the Taiwanese headquarters, which was fun. And yeah, it was a cool job because I got to see a side of the bike industry that a lot of people don't get to see. I got to work with the engineers and stuff.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
So, like, when you say you do animations, have you done animations for any other company besides, say, that bike company?
Yeah, so I've done animation work for a lot of companies. I've done animation for like a zoo, for other bike companies, for other shoe companies, nonprofits. Like I'm doing an animation right now for United Farmworkers. It's like a public service announcement. It's a PSA for like the heat that farm workers have to live in and work in. And yeah, so I've done animation for a lot of companies.
What does it mean for United Farm Workers to be part of this book? Because you mentioned it multiple times after the book finishes. So what does it mean?
Yeah, so if you look in the back of the book, United Farm Workers did the fact page. So it's more specifically the UFW Foundation. They helped me with the fact page. They fact checked the book, and it's just really important for me to have them to be part of the book because they have like a legendary status within the farm working and Mexican community. And just I wanted them to be part of it so people knew it was like legitimate, that everything in it is fact based. It's not being made up or anything like that. So that was big to me.
True stories.
So how does it accurately portray farm workers? How does this book accurately portray that?
Yeah, so, and that's a tough question because it's a book for little kids, and when you're writing a book for little kids, you want to tell them the truth, you want to expose them to the story, but you can't scare them off, you can't, make them feel a certain way. You just have to tell the facts, and it has to be kid friendly. And I think the book does that by showing, what they go through every day and how they bring us our food, the weather events, the long hours they work. There's a part in there where he's talking about his hands, how his hands and his feet hurt. Oh, yeah. So there's a lot in there it's very accurate. And obviously, again, it's for kids, so I couldn't put all the stuff that happens, but yeah.
Even though it's for kids, I feel like when reading the story, I was able to get a very accurate representation through the images that you put in. Like in the cold one, you said that it was hurting his hands, and that like despite all of his troubles, he still did it just because he loved the land. And I felt like I really understood that because my family have worked in the fields as well, and despite like the problems, they continue to do it just because like my auntie enjoys to help, and she also loves the land. Like she loves to farm and take care of her garden. So I understood that very much. Yes.
What is your nationality?
Laotian.
Laotian. Okay. Yeah. So I used to work with Laotian women when I was a teacher, and her family in Laos, they were farmers. So yeah, it's when your ancestors are connected to agriculture, it's I don't know if it's in your DNA, right? But my ancestors, at least the Aztecs and more specifically the Yaqui, they're very agricultural people.
Yeah.
So they're able to do all kinds of magical things with the land and plants and feeding each other. So yeah, that's what I wanted to capture in the book is just this is what our people are doing. They're really good at it, and your food is not magically appearing in the refrigerator or the grocery store.
Yeah.
They're out there working day and night.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's not just a job. There's lots of love put into it.
Yes.
I agree. Because I've worked in many situations with little kids as well, where they don't know anything about, like, say, their family history or anything about where their food would come from. I wish I would have read this to, like, say my second graders. I feel like they would have learned a lot from it. Like,
you mentioned that you worked, like you taught. What did you teach?
Yeah, so my second bachelor's degree is in special education. with I have a certificate in gifted education as well. So I taught special ed for a number of years and gifted education for a couple of years.
Okay. Was that with, like, what grade level would you say?
I taught, I would say K through like 9
okay,
nine
yeah.
or 10. So like there was a couple times where there were some kids that should have been in like high school, but they stayed at the school. So yeah.
Okay, yeah.
So after like having experience of working with kids through a wide variety of ages, what advice would you give to, say, high school students our age who want to pursue a career in the entertainment industry?
Yeah. So that's a tough question. It's hard because every person's different, right? Everyone has a different level of motivation or passion that they bring to something they're doing. I was a very passionate high schooler. I drew day and night. I also had a father that was very strict with me. I had a job my first business when I was 14, cutting grass. So I could buy video games or shoes or whatever. I worked at a car dealership shortly after that, doing like oil changes and mopping oil and for the technicians. So I've always had jobs that my father made me do, and I'm very happy and I'm proud of that because I know other kids that didn't have that and they weren't as motivated to do things. They got to mess around and do whatever. So I would say for high school kids, you need structure. You need structure is the first thing, and second, you really need to be passionate about something. Because when you are going into the work field, it's not as nice as high school. You're not going to have your teachers there to hold your hand and tell you, hey, good job, this is how it is. Going out into the entertainment industry is ruthless, and you get rejected. I got rejected 47 times, maybe more than that.
Wow.
For my first book. So I know people that were more talented than me, better at what I did. They got rejected once and they just disappeared. They fell off the map, and nothing against them, right? But if you want to make it, you have to be persistent, consistent. You have to shrug off rejection. You get rejected a lot.
You gotta accept it.
Yeah, I've been fired so many times for no reason, and I don't cry about it. I just say, okay, next job. And yeah, I've worked for companies like Disney. I worked on Diary of a Future President in season 2 on Disney Plus. So when you work on stuff, I'm working with Sesame Street, Paramount right now, Fred Rogers Productions. My friend and I are doing video game pitches for them. And when you do these things and you get feedback, you can't get your feelings hurt.
Yeah.
You have to remove your ego because it's not personal. They don't hate you. They're not attacking you. They're giving you constructive feedback, and yeah, it's one of those things where I guess you just need to look at the big picture. You need to look at the finish line, even though you don't know what that looks like because you're always evolving. But you need to look past all of the negative stuff, the rejection, and the long nights it takes to do something. And yeah, you pretty much just need to have blinders on and go straight for it, because if you don't, you'll never make it. And I know a lot of people that I started out with that they don't do anything anymore with the entertainment industry, at least.
Yeah.
Honestly, I would say that is some great advice, because being in high school, I've seen a lot of students who have tried to do things and they're like one and done. As they try one time, and then as soon as they fail, they're like, "Oh, I'm done."
Yeah, and there's nothing wrong with that, because there's a lot of things that I've tried to do in life and I one and done it. Definitely not art. I'm an artist and a cyclist. I ride bikes, so those things I've always done since I was very young. But I tried to play basketball. I remember I tried to play basketball for a couple of years, so I played with my dad in our front yard. And I went and tried out for the basketball team, and I didn't make it because I wasn't any good, right? Yeah. So I went and tried out, and they're like, "Oh, you're not any good. You didn't make it." And I was like, "Oh." I got sad for like 2 months, and I never played basketball again. But I was like state championship winner in bike racing. I've won hundreds of races, all that stuff for bike racing. So, but there is things I've won and done, and I'm like, oh my gosh, like I tried to play football one week and I couldn't even catch the ball, right? So yeah, there's things out there where you're like, okay, but I get what you're saying when it comes to my hobbies. I always knew I wanted to be an artist. I always knew I wanted to make money doing it. And that was not one of those one and done things. That was something that I intentionally woke up with structure every day to work on. Yeah. And the last thing I'll say about that is for high school kids, I built goals. Yeah. So I had daily goals that led up to my weekly goals, and my weekly goals added up to my monthly goals, and my monthly goals added up to my yearly goals, and my yearly goals added up to my 5-year plan, and my 5-year plan ended up to my 10-year plan. Yeah. So I know that's a lot to take in, but to be able to do that, I've worked for easily 50 companies by now, and some of the biggest companies on the planet, and it's all thanks to my dad kind of setting that up for me.
Yeah.
So in that 5-year goal, was college ever, did you go to college?
I did, yeah. I have a bachelor's. I have 2 bachelors from Arizona State University.
Ooh,
yeah.
I like that college. Thank you for asking me.
Yeah, and I couldn't afford it at first, so I had to go to a junior college first. And then I paid for school myself because my family didn't have the money to do it. So I got scholarships, Pell Grants, and student loans. Yeah. And you know, people always tell you, don't get student loans, but I can tell you right now, I wouldn't be who I am today without, going to college.
Yeah.
So when going into college, did you go to like pursue being an author, like writing and journalism and stuff like that?
No. So I don't even know if that would be a degree, honestly, for authorship, but that's more like stuff that, so I went to college for painting and drawing first.
Oh, okay.
And then I got my degree for education after that. But as far as being like an author and stuff, that was more like, I guess you could have a degree in something like creative writing. Yeah. Yeah, I think that's a real degree, but no, I did my own stuff career-wise. No one's actually ever asked me for like, hey, what degree do you have? When I go to work for Toyota or something, or Mercedes-Benz, they don't go like, we need to see your degree. They want to see my portfolio. Yeah. But I will say, in college, it taught me the structure, again, to be an artist and to make those connections, networking and stuff, and meeting lifelong friends in college, too. Yeah. And I learned a lot of cool skills in college, too, for art.
So, knowing that you work with a lot of businesses, what is a piece of advice that you would give to us when it comes to, say, networking and working with other people in the entertainment industry?
Yeah, that's a good question. What advice would I give a high school student? No one's ever asked me that question.
Sorry, I'm curious.
No, it's a good question. I'm just trying to figure out how to answer that, because if you asked my high school self, what I would do or what advice to take, I guess I would say networking is, there's always events going on. The last 2.5 weeks I've been to probably 20 events. I was in New York City 2 weeks ago. Oh. Last week I was in Chicago. Wow. And then I flew in a couple of days ago to LA, and then I got my car and I drove up here. So to do this, and even here I'm networking with people at your guys' school districts, with your teacher right now. That's networking, right? You're building relationships with people. And they're not fake relationships, right? Networking isn't just like, oh, I got this guy's business card. Let me ask him about, and I used to be like this. I got this guy's card, and I'll tell you a story. I went to this Nickelodeon party in LA a couple years ago, and I wanted to go because I ultimately want to do an animated series with my children's books. Yeah. Ones that aren't out yet. They come out in a few years. Anyways, long story short, I went in there and this party, and I wanted to get these 3 people's names that I Googled that were at the party, and that I knew had the power to green light a show. Yeah. Well, I just strong-armed my way in there, and I ran in there, and I was like, saw those guys, and I went up there, and I started talking to them, blabbing my mouth, and that's definitely not how you want to network. What you want to do is go up there, and you want to genuinely, if you really love whatever field you're in, let's say I love animation, because I do, you want to go to the Animation Guild. You want to go protest with them. You want to show these people you care about them. You want to be their friend. So it's not about using people, it's about building relationships throughout whatever industry you want to be in.
So I remember you said that it was your dad and your dad who would keep you motivated and into stuff. What else would you say motivated you besides your dad?
I would say my mom.
Your
my
mom.
mom. If my dad gave me structure, my mom was like caring and loving. She would tell me, not saying my dad didn't really do that, but my mom would be like, she always thought I'd be a famous artist.
Yeah.
She hung up my art. She was always telling people, look at my son's artwork and stuff, even when I was embarrassed, right? And I don't know how your guys' moms are, but my mom was like, I mean, she'd walk through fire for me, you know?
Yeah,
and
I agree.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
And that means a lot to me because even now, my mom's not with us anymore, but my mom, when I do my books and whatever I do, really, I always think of her and I'm like, oh man, she's why I'm here. Like, she's my motivation.
That love and support was always there.
Yeah.
It's definitely seen through your books because through your books you can tell that
there's a lot of emotion behind it.
Yeah, there's a lot of emotion behind it, and the fact that you're able to bring a very deep and like it's a sad story. It is. The fact that you were able to bring such a sad story and make it seem not
lighthearted.
More lighthearted.
Yeah.
That you can definitely tell that there was a lot of emotion put into it and a lot of thought put into the book and the process behind it.
Thank you.
Do you have any plans for like the future?
Yes, plans for the future. After this, I'm gonna go get lunch or whatever it is. But if you're talking about art stuff, I think for future, it's hard to say because I was talking to your teacher right before he came in here. He was talking about AI, and it's interesting because when you talk about the future, it's very all of a sudden, and I mean all of a sudden because it happened so fast. It's like, where do we fit in? So I'm always trying to reinvent myself and stay relevant with my art, and it's interesting. So who knows what the future holds? I know I have more books coming out. I'm gonna keep doing what I'm doing, but as far as what the future of the industry looks like, I just saw Lionsgate is signing with an AI company to remove storyboard artists, and that's one of the main jobs I do is storyboards.
Oh no.
So I was like, might have to learn a new skill. So there's I might have to do something else other than storyboards to help pay my bills. So there's stuff out there where it's scary. So ask if I come back next year or 2 years, I'll answer that question again for you guys because I have no idea what the future looks like.
Yeah. What's the most difficult job you've worked on?
So I would say the most difficult job I've worked on was I did the cover for this magazine. It was this like outdoor magazine, and I did some interior pages of it, and it was, I'd say it's difficult because on the contract they said they're going to pay me X amount of dollars for X amount of work, but I didn't realize how I guess flip-floppy the editor was. So the editor kept having me change artwork. She didn't like, I don't like the sleeve on this jacket. I don't like the color of this jacket. I don't like how the light's hitting this jacket. So it was supposed to be like artwork I would finish in like 2 or 3 days for the cover and the interior, but it took like a month. So it's hard when people just come at you randomly and want changes. And that's my fault because I should have put in the contract like, hey, every change is going to be X amount of dollars, and I didn't do that. I was younger, so you live and you learn when it comes to being an artist and advocating for yourself. You always got to advocate for yourself because they'll always take advantage of you. Yeah.
I would definitely agree that working in the entertainment industry, it's very important to read the fine print when it comes to things. Yeah. Especially when you're signing a contract and like say you're making a deal, because you don't want to get like stuck doing something that you don't want to do. Yeah. Don't know. Do you see any changes coming in the future for farm workers and how the United Farm Worker Union is helping them?
I have no idea because I'm not part of the, I don't know politics or, I don't know legislation. I do know that they're trying to work to get them way better insurance, immigration rights, and health safety when it comes to like the sun, the heat, and summer, because unfortunately there have been many deaths related to the heat with farm workers. So I know UFW and UFW Foundation are working very hard on that front.
You mentioned in your book that you based this book off of your grandfather. Was there a specific field or field area that he worked on?
Yeah, so great-grandfather.
Great-grandfather.
Yes. So my great-grandfather, so I'll start in the beginning. He left Navajoa, which is where the Yaqui people live, and he left there in I would say like 1920-ish, around there. Him and his brother Tomas walked to Mexicali. They then went to San Diego. They were in Mexicali and Ajo, Arizona. I skipped ahead a little. They were copper miners for a little while. Working in the mines. Definitely didn't want to write a children's book about copper mines.
Yeah.
I don't know what that would even be about, so skip that part. He went to San Diego, and then Tomas went to live in San Francisco, and Jorge lived in different places. That's technically, if you read the back, his name is Jorge Francisco Dennis Flores. So that's in the About the Author section.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, in like the last couple of pages. And I actually named him Luz Alvarez because that is my mother's grandfather, and I wanted to honor her because she passed away recently. So I thought it would be nice to name him after my maternal great-grandfather. Anyways, he was, my mom's from Fresno, actually. So, yeah, she left, though, in the late 70s, and she moved when she was young. Her brothers and sisters were much older than her. So they went to, like, I think, Ainsworth Elementary and Roosevelt High School.
And Leavenworth?
What is that?
And Leavenworth?
Maybe that's what it is, yeah.
That's right next to Roosevelt.
Okay, so yes. So I actually just got her address, and we were supposed to come visit Fresno before she passed away. We didn't get to do that, so this is my first time back here in many, many years. But he worked in this area, and then he worked a little bit north of this area as well. He did a lot of jobs. He laid tile, so like in people's houses, farm working, fixed fences. He was really good at wood, like fixing and repairing fences and stuff. So my family, there's a lot of people in my family that are trades workers and stuff, plumbers, electricians. I kind of took those stories, and I don't know the exact fields he worked in, but it was definitely in this area because that's where they were from. Yeah. And I kind of just, made it very ambiguous. That's why in the book it doesn't say like where he's from. Yeah. But it is in the Central Valley because if you see where in the beginning, first 5 pages, they're in San Francisco. Yeah, so they're in San Francisco in the first few pages, and then it zooms into like where Tracy would be in the Central Valley, and then kind of you can assume he works in the Central Valley somewhere. Yeah, I didn't want to put an exact like name to it.
Yeah, I get that.
Would you say that growing up you were very like tied into your cultures and your traditions?
It's a really good question. So I grew up in an area in Phoenix that was very interesting, very diverse, very colorful, and it got pretty bad there, violence-wise. So my family moved us to a neighborhood that was all white, and when we moved that neighborhood, I was fluent in Spanish, and I spoke a little bit of our native language. Yeah. And I spoke English as well. So we went to this white neighborhood, and it was kind of like sink or swim. You didn't want to stand out for being brown. Right. I was definitely the darkest kid there.
Yeah.
and just felt out of place. So I would say when I was young, I was connected to my heritage and my traditions. Then going in 4th grade to like high school, I was out of that because I was maybe one of 3 Mexican kids in this area, the entire area. And then going to high school, I was probably one of 6 Mexican kids in the entire high school. So it felt very alienated. Yeah.
So you would say that like your surroundings very much affected the way that.
Yeah, for sure.
you-
Yeah, and that's what I'm so proud of my books now is coming full circle. Is like, you know,
Yeah.
I don't have to, because I got bullied and I got beat up for, you know, the way I talked or the way I looked. So I got called names, and that's, no kid wants to get called names because of how you look, right? You can't control how you look or where you come from. So yeah, when you get older, you become proud of those things that you used to be embarrassed of, and yeah, I hopefully we in the future we live in a world where no kid is embarrassed of their traditions, their culture, or what they look like, right? So
I feel as though despite you being put through that challenge of having to transition from a very cultured neighborhood to a not as diverse neighborhood, I feel that it helps build character
Yeah.
for sure, because then it allows you to learn how to act in different environments. I feel
well, yeah, and I definitely wouldn't have I wouldn't be who I am today.
Yeah.
My books wouldn't exist if that didn't happen to me.
Yeah.
So yeah, I don't look at it ever as a negative experience. I definitely don't want other kids to go through that,
Yeah.
but for myself, it's part of my journey.
You would say that like it's a learning step.
Yeah.
And speaking of your journey, how difficult was your journey overall? Like, how did you get here? Like, how difficult was that to
Would you
get
just have,
here?
like a smooth ride, a bumpy ride.
Yeah, definitely not smooth. In the publishing industry, I guess you would say it's 70, 80, I guess you could round up. It's 80% of children's books are written for Caucasian children.
Oh.
Wow.
So 80%. That was last year. 7% of those books were written for Latino kids, Latinx, Hispanic, whatever you want to call them, right? That's a very small number.
Yeah.
And it's disproportionate to the amount of our population.
Yeah.
For Asian children, it's even smaller. For Native American children, it's even smaller than that. African American children, their books were a little bit higher than the Hispanic population. And then sadly, above all of those were like monster trucks and animal books. So yeah, so it's interesting. And then when you look at an executive level, who runs the publishing companies, they're like 86% white, and there's only about 2% of Hispanic people working in the publishing industry. So yeah, it's
Starts from the top.
yeah, it starts from the top for sure, and it's interesting numbers because they need to be changed, and that's why I like coming to the schools, because I hope that you guys or any other kids see that and they go, I want to make my own book, because we need more story. We need to tell our stories.
Yeah.
I would definitely agree, because after reading this book, this is the first time that I've ever read a book that's like his Latino inspired.
Yeah.
And I was very intrigued while reading it, because I was able to relate with it as well, and it made me wonder, like, how come there's no books for like Asian kids or any African American kids? Like, this is the first time that I've seen a book that is about another race, and I found it really interesting.
Thank you. And yeah, I don't know. You said you were Laotian?
Yeah, Laotian.
Laotian, sorry. I don't know. I've never read a children's book
Yeah.
about your people.
Yeah.
Is there one? Yeah, and so that should give you some power to write your own book, right? And growing up, I never read any books about Hispanic, Latino, Latinx people. I never. So, here's the issue: is when you don't see yourself in media, whether it's a book, TV, a podcast, anything, you have a low self-esteem about yourself.
Yeah.
And that's our job to change that, right?
Yes.
And it's not a smooth road, unfortunately.
Yeah.
But with determination, we can do that, right?
100%. Yeah, I'm also Mexican, and I never growing up. I was never in tune with my culture either, so I never saw books that represented me and my culture. And I feel like if I would have seen those books, I would have understood where I came from and my ancestors around me and what they went through. And yeah, it's crazy to see that we don't have those books for our kids.
It really does make such a big impact. It's like watching Disney princess movies, because nowadays they started making like different races when it comes to Disney princess. But back then, like, there was only, like, Snow White, Sleeping Beauty, and stuff
Cinderella,
like that. Yeah, but, like, now I get to watch, like, a Disney movie and be like, oh, my God, look at it. Like, she's... So, like, getting to read these type of books, it's like I was saying earlier, it's really great. Because now we get to actually relate to it. And then I know there's some kids whose parents, like, also work in the fields. So maybe they'll read it and be like, oh... So
this is what my parents are doing.
Yes, exactly. Yeah. And that's why I hope you and your friends write books when you get older.
Yeah.
Because whether it's a novel, I'm actually working on a couple graphic novels right now. Mm-hmm. So long comic books, it's one of those things where if we don't tell our stories, no one else is.
Yeah.
I agree. Closed mouths don't get fed.
Yeah, there you go.
Do you want to tell us a bit like about yourself? Because I know you told us about like when you were younger.
Yeah.
But like, what about yourself now?
I mean, I'm pretty much the exact same person as when I was in high school. I draw and I ride my bike. Only difference is I make video games now instead of play them because I don't have time to play. So yeah, pretty much the exact, just passionate about art.
For your future books, would you ever consider like maybe doing a digital book, knowing that like everything is going digital nowadays? Would you ever consider like not making a digital specific book, but maybe turning one of your books into a digital version?
Yeah. So could you push that over there here?
Yeah.
Yeah. So when you make a book, so you guys know what an IP is?
No.
So when you make a book, you create intellectual property, IP.
Mm-hmm. Oh, okay.
And this book isn't just the book. So you can get streams of revenue from the book through foreign rights. My book can be translated into German, Spanish, many other languages.
Yeah.
Also, there's an ebook version of it. Also, they're going to make an audio version of it. Mm-hmm. And my goal is to make it into an animated series.
Yeah.
So it'll be multifaceted, right? It's not just a book; it's many things. That it's an overarching IP. My publisher is selling the merchandising rights too. So there's going to be little plushies like that big of the character and stuff. So there's a lot of stuff you can do with it. When it comes to like a digital version, I want to do a animated version of the pages. Mm-hmm. And if you go to theboyfrommexico.com, you can see some of these pages, especially like this page. Mm-hmm. If you go, you see, I don't have my iPad with me, but I made all these windmills spinning.
Oh, that's really cute.
Yeah.
That's really cool.
On this page, I have all the cars driving on the Golden Gate Bridge, and there's birds flying, and the clouds are moving. Mm-hmm. So, and it zooms in. It actually zooms in right here because that's the actual windmills right there in the background.
Oh, okay, yeah.
So it zooms into there, and then it comes out, and then it shows the farm worker. Maybe we can play that when, I can email it to you all, the animations I do.
Yeah,
I'm like
for the book.
envisioning it in my head.
I know, right?
So
like
cool.
it does.
Yeah, it's really cute. Yeah, I put music to it. I got someone to voice Luz. Mm-hmm. So he's voicing it in Spanish. Yeah, it's really cool. And so yeah, to answer your question, I like to not just make the book and leave it here. I like to make sure, I squeeze out everything I can from the book.
Mm-hmm.
That's so cool to me. I'm like still stuck on that because I remember growing up, I didn't know how to read for like a good minute until I got a little older.
In English? Reading in general?
Yeah, just in general. Like until I was in like second grade.
Yeah.
I didn't really know how to read. So then I remember like watching videos of books where they would like animate it and they would read it out to you. Like I remember just sitting there and I would listen to the book. So hearing that that's what you guys have done with this book is really cool because now it's like it's open to even more kids who can read it and stuff like that.
Yeah. Yep.
Speaking of the animation that you want to do, well, I don't know if you can really answer that question, but is there like a dream animation company that you would like want to work with?
You know, animation's interesting because when you, there's a company that I know. They're called Double Plus Productions. They're really cool. They do some really cool stuff. They do a lot of the animation stuff for Brawl Stars. It's a video game.
Yeah.
So they do most of the Brawl Stars stuff, and I know the guys that own the company.
Wow.
And we're working on something. I've been busy with my books, but we're working on stuff. So they're a company I like. I like how they composite things. I like the motion that they get in their characters. As far as animation companies that I do like, I don't know if you guys have seen on Netflix, Hilda. It's like a kid's show.
I think I've heard of it, but I don't think I can picture it right now.
So Hilda's an animated series for kids based off of the graphic novel for kids. So which is Hilda. So Hilda graphic novel, Hilda the animated series. I love that show. I love the aesthetic. I love the music. It's really cute. I want to do something like that, but Mexican.
Yeah.
Oh, that would be cute. When you said that, like, you would animate and help create video games, like, what kind of video games? Racing?
Yeah, so my friend Andrew Augustine, who's the professor of video game design at University of Austin, Texas, he is the CEO of Notion Games, and that's a company out of Austin where he's from.
Yeah.
And I'm like his right-hand man, so I do a lot of the cutscene animation, storyboards, writing the story for the games, background art. So we have a game coming out for Xbox next year called Super Ubi Island 2. So, and it has to come out on Xbox first because it's a little green alien. It has to come out on Xbox because they gave us money to finish the game.
Yeah.
Or do the game, yeah.
I don't know. I've never like played video games, but I'm like I want to try. I'm like
Yeah.
Maybe we can edit in the trailer for the game. It's a little green alien guy. It's really cool. And he jumps and he lands. It's like Mario.
Okay. Yeah.
But it's all hand drawn artwork.
So you like make video games for like little kids?
Yes, little kids. Yeah.
Okay, that's so.
It's like the Sesame Street game that we were working on for Sesame Street. That was like it's called upcycling. You guys know what upcycling is?
Yeah, like reusing.
Yes, reusing, like finding. So it's for little kids, so they could find like household trash. I guess it was trash or items, and they can they have their iPad, and then they get stuff, and like if there's like a toilet paper roll, like an empty one, or like Q-tips, you can like click it on the iPad and like drag it and like build something. So that's what that's about.
Yeah.
And it took place in like Bert and Ernie's apartment or something like that.
As somebody that is really close with like my little cousins and all that, they're really invested in like media right now because it's a lot of they like playing a lot of video games. So like Minecraft specifically right now, they're really obsessed with. So I think like having more games to have them to play that are like really just fun and kiddish is super cool.
Have you ever thought about working with a company like Roblox before, like to make a game?
You know, so I always look for jobs because, you know, I got to pay the bills. But when I look online, I always see Roblox hiring. And I don't know what I would do there because my niece plays Roblox all the time. I think my nephew does too. It's just like random games that people make, and so I see them playing that, and I'm like, I'll pass. Like nothing against it, you know,
100%.
but I have no idea what they're doing. Like some of the games, I think one of them they play is like you got to survive in IKEA or something like that, and I'm like. I don't know what I would do for them. You know what I mean? I'm just like, that's not what I do. So No, I wouldn't. For Roblox.
No, I get that.
I was asking because I know like in Roblox they have a lot of like random games, and you said that yours is like where they're like jumping block to block.
Well, you're a little green alien, and there's like a story, like you crash land on Earth, and you gotta jump on the bad guys to defeat them. It's just like it's like a Mario type of game.
Oh, that's cool.
That is, yeah.
Okay, yeah, that's way better than Roblox. I don't know. Yeah. Aside from like writing and drawing, is there anything else that like you're very passionate about?
I like reading. So lately, I've been reading a lot about Mesoamerican mythology.
Yeah.
Like my ancestors and stuff like that. So, and then trying to convert those into like graphic novels and children's books. So, I would say that's what I'm really passionate about right now.
It sounds like you're very focused on like learning stuff and creating stuff for your books, even say unintentionally.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, and that just becomes part of your DNA when you're a creator, right?
Yeah.
I don't know what you two are into, but when you get older, it'll just naturally come out like that. You know? Yeah. It'll be in everything you do.
I feel it. I already feel it. Like,
yeah.
So as of right now, me and her are like photographers, and
Sure.
we do like news segments, and we'll just be walking. I'm like, oh, that's a cute picture.
Yeah.
Like, I definitely understand what you're saying, where it just comes naturally to you now.
Yeah, I used to do. Well, I still do photography. I do a lot of photography for restaurants. I take pictures of food. I'm a videographer. I do video for hotels. I've worked for all kinds of hotels, Hilton, like the Four Seasons, whatever. I've worked for everyone. I'm a drone pilot, so I fly drones a lot for photography. So yeah, I love photography. It's a great way to, make money.
When you're like drawing your artwork for your books, what do you get your inspiration from?
Really like nature. If you look at my first and second book, there's a lot of nature's hills and storms and clouds and things like that. I think as a mountain biker, I mountain bike a lot. I like to just go out and take photos of all of that stuff and then put it into my books. So that's kind of my biggest inspiration is nature and mountain biking.
That sounds so cool. I've never been mountain biking. I'm like thinking about that now. Okay. Thank you, Edward, for coming on today's podcast. We very much appreciate it. I learned a lot of new stuff. Did you?
Oh, so much.
Yeah, I was like, I don't know. The advice that you were giving, I feel like you weren't sure about it, but it honestly, it had such a big impact on me because I was really understanding like the connections that you were trying to make through this book, and this book felt like very, I don't know how to say it. Like, it felt very relatable.
Yeah.
Thank you. Yeah.
I really took in the advice about keeping your motivation and just keeping that drive.
And that
I
structure.
think it's super important, and I think that's something that's going to probably stick with me.
Good. Yeah. And yeah, this is my book. It comes out October 29th.
Ooh.
Okay, this is the book, everybody. This has been our McLanecast, and we thank you for tuning in. Please join in next time to hear our next guest.
Yeah.
Thank you.